In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to use 4 simple agreements to cut down on drama, lower conflict, and make your classroom feel more respectful without adding a brand new curriculum. Welcome to the Voice of the Student podcast, where real student stories meet the science of well-being, energy, and learning. I'm Dr. Kelley Spence, a well-being specialist, education advocate, and author of The Voice of the Student. Here to help reimagine education so that teachers are better resourced, students are truly seen, and classrooms become places where both can thrive. This space is dedicated to you, the hardworking teacher and educator, offering grounded, science-backed, energetically aware strategies to support your well-being so your classroom can better meet and exceed the needs of your unique 21st century students. Take a breath, settle in, and let's explore how caring for your nervous system, your intention, and your energy is one of the most powerful ways to transform education from the inside out. Everything in this movement to reimagine education for both teachers and students rests on a simple truth. When we regulate the adult nervous system first, we create the conditions for adolescent brains to feel safe enough to learn, take risks, and engage more fully in the education experience. When your body is grounded and your energy is intentional, you can design a classroom that works with, not against, the teenage brain. So well-being and learning rise together. Have you ever wished there was a simple, meaningful framework you could use to help guide how your classroom treats language, conflict, and effort without adding another tedious program or time-consuming structure to your already overloaded schedule? The 4 agreements, rooted in ancient Toltec wisdom and made popular by Don Miguel Ruiz, offers exactly that. Today we'll explore how to translate these 4 powerful ideas into everyday classroom practices that build trust, resilience, and respect for both you and your students. So here's a quick overview of the 4 agreements. The 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Think of them as a code of conduct that can help shift self-limiting beliefs, sharpen communication, and reduce needless anxiety, stress, and struggles, especially in the emotionally intense world of adolescence. In our online course, The Engaged Classroom, these agreements become part of the way you co-create expectations and build emotional intelligence, not just quotes you put up on the wall. Agreement number 1, be impeccable with your word. In your classroom, this starts with you. Being impeccable with your word means saying what you mean, following through, and using language that builds rather than tears down. For you, that might look like avoiding sarcasm that might land as shame, consistently following through on consequences and promises with all students equally, and being specific and constructive with your feedback. For students, you can translate it as we speak to ourselves and each other in ways that are honest, respectful, and kind, even when we're frustrated. You might invite your students to reflect on questions like, how did my words impact the energy of the room today? When did I use my words to encourage instead of criticize? And what's a questionable word choice or phrase that I might consider no longer using and that doesn't represent who I am or who I want to be? Agreement number 2, don't take anything personally. This agreement is a lifeline in a high school classroom for you and your students. For teachers, it's the reminder that a student's outburst or shutdown is often more about their internal world, stress, or history than about your worth as an educator. That doesn't excuse behavior, but it keeps you grounded so you can respond instead of react. For students, learning not to take everything personally helps with things like navigating social media drama, receiving feedback without collapsing, and understanding that others' moods don't define their value. You might teach this by saying, what other people do and say is often about their story. You still get to choose how you respond, and it doesn't decide your worth. Agreement number 3, don't make assumptions. Assumptions are story fillers, and teens are pros at creating stories with limited information. In classroom life, assumptions might sound like, he ignored me, so he must hate me. Or she didn't turn in the assignment, she just doesn't care. Or the teacher called on them instead of me because they're the favorite. You can invite a different habit with things like, what else might be true here? Or what don't I know yet? Or have I actually asked for clarification? In practice, this might look like modeling curiosity yourself. I noticed you haven't turned in the last 2 assignments. Instead of assuming you don't care, I want to ask, what's going on and how can I support you? Agreement number 4, always do your best. This agreement is a beautiful entry point into a growth mindset. It acknowledges that your best is not perfection, and that it changes from day to day, sometimes moment to moment. For you and your students, your best looks different when you're rested and resourced than when you're exhausted and overwhelmed. The goal is honest effort, not flawless performance. You can reinforce this by praising process and effort, not just outcomes, by allowing room for revision and improvement, and by sharing your own stories of trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. So you don't need to launch a big unit to use the 4 agreements. Instead, you can post them in a student-friendly language and refer to them regularly. Use them as journal prompts or reflection questions like, how did one of the agreements show up for me today? Or where did I struggle with one agreement and what did I learn about myself or the situation? You can integrate them into your class contract as a shared framework for how we speak, interpret, and respond. When conflicts arise, you might pause and ask, which agreement feels relevant here? And what would it look like to repair the situation using that agreement? Over time, you'll hear students begin to use this language with each other and with themselves. Module 2 of the Engaged Classroom course offers sample language, contract examples, and reflection prompts you can plug directly into your lessons, so these agreements become living tools, not just nice ideas. The 4 agreements are more than inspirational quotes. They're practical tools for emotional intelligence, better communication, and integrity. When you bring them into your classroom, you're not just managing behavior, you're helping teens build a code they can carry into friendships, families, and futures far beyond your walls. You're also giving yourself a compassionate framework to navigate those hard days with less self-blame and more grounded clarity. Before we close, I'd love to hear from you. So if you brought just one of the 4 agreements into your classroom more intentionally this week, which one would it be? And how would you explain it in student-friendly language? Share your chosen agreement and how you'd introduce it in the comments below. Your wording might be exactly what another teacher needs to hear to get started today. And thank you for spending this time with the voice of the student. Here, teacher well-being is not an afterthought, it's the foundation. When the adult nervous system is grounded, classrooms become safer, more human spaces where the adolescent brain can finally exhale, engage, and thrive. And if this episode sparked ideas for your classroom, imagine what's possible with a step-by-step roadmap and a community of educators doing this work alongside you. Head over to thevoiceofthestudent.com to learn more about my foundational self-paced online course, The Engaged Classroom, and my educator training, The Reimagine Educator Method, both designed to help you transform the teacher-student experience with science-backed tools, intentional classroom energy, and sustainable habits that work in real schools with real students. If this episode supported you, please like, subscribe, and follow The Voice of the Student and share it with one teacher friend. Together we can elevate the teacher-student experience, one nervous system, one class, one student, one teacher, and one school at a time. Your energy, your intention, and your voice matter more than you know. Listen, innovate, educate. Thanks for listening and all that you do. Until next time on The Voice of the Student.